I research this every time I'm talking to investors. What their returns are on checking, savings, CDs, treasury bills. The market itself, the stock market in the last 10 years has made about 10%, and if you divide that, that's 1% a year. That's not even keeping up with the cost of living and the value of the dollar that's dropping. It's not even taking into account any costs on those fees, the fee structures of the brokerage accounts. It doesn't take into account transactional fees if somebody's paying that. So, you're really not earning enough to retire on, if that's what you're basing this as your retirement plan. So, and on top of that, one of the things that's interesting too, I wanted to point out, is in real estate, if you buy the property directly in an IRA, and I have a property in mind, and you turn around to sell it, no matter what state it's in, you are not going to be paying capital gains on it because you're working with tax-deferred or tax-free money. Those taxes don't apply. Property taxes do because that's part of the investment itself, but not capital gains tax. And that can be, short-term capital gains can be as high as 35%. So when you do pay taxes would be on an account like a traditional or a SEP or a solo, where you took it out after 59 and a half, then you would pay taxes considered ordinary income at that point, and that's when you pay taxes. Now, I have talked to CPAs, financial planners. Some of them argue that ordinary income could be higher, that we don't think taxes are going to go down, that taxes potentially could go up. But, nobody has a crystal ball to that. And if you leave it in your traditional conservative types of investments, like brokerage, and as we've been seeing, the 1% a year, if you could make anywhere from 6 to 12% instead of that 1%, even if you take a small piece of it, you don't have to move all of it, you could be earning, and this is could be, because again, you can't guarantee income on these things. It depends on what you choose to put it in, but you could be earning more, and even if you pay taxes, you have more when you retire to work with than you would have if it was sitting in those traditional types of investments.
Absolutely. I'm convinced that it is very safe to say that even if we cannot come any promises or quote any numbers, but this is certainly a way to achieve in a few years, basically, what the average investor that is stuck with other much slower ways can hope to achieve in a lifetime. So this is wonderful to either really boost performance or recover losses or fix problems, and certainly ensure a brighter future.
That's right. What's interesting too is that you probably know this, the rule of 72.
Right.
Yeah, and this is what I find fascinating with this type of investing. If you're a private lender, and just suppose, let's say you got maybe a 10% return, okay, and you did that repeatedly, okay. Typically, I see some people put it in for 6 months with an investor because they're buying a property, rehabbing it, selling it. If you did that twice in a year, you would get the full 10% that year, compared to 10% over 10 years.
Right.
Now you take that number, the rule of 72 is you divide it by that particular interest by 10, then in 7.2 years you would double your return.
Yes.
Instead, now imagining again, that's tenfold more than what's been done in the last 10 years in the stock market, and now you're also doubling it again in 7.2 years.
Right, and we have discussed previously how these investments are relatively more safe, so you do avoid the potential enormous dips that have happened in the market, and you enjoy much higher peace of mind, basically, with your investment.
Because you know what the return will be. When you have money in a stock market account, you don't know that. There isn't a crystal ball to say, these funds here or these funds over there are going to make X amount of money over a certain period of time. And when you're a private lender, you have those terms in a promissory note that tell you how long the person's going to have your money, how long it would be tied up, and then how much the returns would be. So you can pretty much see. Now, I'm going to ask you this question too, because every investment has risk. So when you're working with investors who are lending to you, what do you do to give them peace of mind and to mitigate the risk of an investment? How do you secure, their money?
For instance, in private lending, what you do is the investor is funding a real estate project, a rehab project, let's say. Mm-hmm. What happens is that the investors is covered because the deed of trust and the note are in the investor's name.
Right.
So there is physical property that is backing the investment. The investment itself is done, first of all, we select them in areas where they are safer because they are uptrending, they are good areas. We make sure that the work is scheduled and planned correctly, and we watch the implementation of the work. We perform all of these transactions in a very formalized way, so there are title companies involved, real estate attorneys involved. Everything is very clean and it's very very proven as a good system that guarantees peace of mind for the investor.
Now, if you just mentioned title attorneys, so the money goes into an escrow account,
absolutely,
and it's released. You're not touching it
No, we don't touch it. We didn't see it. Everything is done once again at the title company, so nothing goes through us in terms of money flow. We just coordinate the execution of the transaction.
Okay. And do you have insurance on?
Everything is insured, of course.
So you insure the project, and in case anybody's injured on it or anything happens to it.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned this. There is a whole side of this business that is risk mitigation and risk control.
Right.
We go through all kinds of lengths to identify, very creatively, being very pessimistic and deciding what could go wrong, and make sure that we have a way to take care of whatever problem there may be.
Right.
So if there are insurance policies that are implemented, there are, again, working plans and execution plans that are constantly monitored. Everything is taken care of to, again, guarantee that we do as best we can to limit any risks.
Right.